Ladies and gentlemen, Steven Furtick. Some love him, some hate him, some worship him, which is weird. Some make nasty videos about him, some do all sorts of reaction content to him. He is loved, he is hated, regardless of what you think about him. This is not to discuss his theology, doctrine, any of that stuff, but he did just teach one of the greatest leadership principles that most pastors and most leaders need to hear, especially those celebrity pastors definitely need to hear this. Before we get to that, my name is Jeff Moores. I'm the lead pastor of Rhythm Church, planting pastor of Rhythm Church, and have been in ministry, building strong teams and organizations and ministries for the past 2 decades, leading and building better leaders. That's what we're here for. So here's what I want to show you. Recently, Steven Furtick taught at Fort Lauderdale Baptist Church. I believe that's the name of the church. And this right here is one of the greatest leadership principles that you're going to hear, and I'm going to tell you why. Check this out.
I got to be honest, I'm extra nervous. This is the first time, other than FCA banquet, that I preached for my son, and school chapel that I preached for my son, that I have preached outside of one of our Elevation ministry events in over 4 years.
So this is the first time that he has spoken at another church, at another event outside of anything that's considered Elevation Church, except for, of course, his son's FCA event. Now, why is this important? Because right now, especially in the church world, it's all about the other churches that you go preach at, the conferences that you preach at, the extra things that you do. And that's not bad. I'm not saying that at all. I go speak at other churches. I go speak at conferences and so on and so forth and do some traveling. I'm not saying it's bad. But what I am saying is that for somebody of his level to just say, I'm not going to do anything except speak, teach, and lead for my own church is unheard of. For the past 4 years, he hasn't done anything outside of that. Now, again, I'm not in the mix, so I don't know necessarily what that looks like for him, but I know that he is trying to pastor for the long haul and for longevity. I also know that he does host a lot of events at his church where he pours into other pastors from across the country. So here's one of the biggest names in celebrity Christendom right now who just said that for the past 4 years, he's focused only on teaching his church, leading his church, and then, of course, pouring into other people that come to his church to see how they do things. Now, why is this one of the most important leadership principles? It's easy. Because he is not focused on everything else. He's focused on his sole purpose and mission, building that church. I mean, of course, family, but if he's not traveling all over the place, he's able then to focus on his family as well. I think far too often, leaders, church planters, pastors, we have an entrepreneurial gene within us, but that can cause us to get bored with where we're at. It can cause us to want to splinter off into all sorts of different areas, but to stay focused on the main purpose that God has given you. It's massive. And what we just heard here is that he hasn't accepted any other invitations. He hasn't preached outside. He hasn't gone to any other conferences. He's just done what the Lord has placed in front of him to do. Now, why did he do this? He did this one out of relationship because he is close with those pastors. And relationship is key. Too many people bring in pastors to speak at their church that they don't have any relationship with, but because they've got a name or they've got a following, they bring them in some way, like to boost them, to elevate them, to make their church look better, or to make them seem like they've got the connection. Or they'll go speak at other churches where they have no connection, where they've got no relationship, they've got no friendship. I think it's massively important that if you're going to travel, if you're going to leave your church, leave your hometown, that you're doing so to go somewhere where you do have relationship or you're about to build relationship, that it isn't just some gig. And for bringing people in, I say this to my church all the time. If somebody's going to stand on this platform, it's because I know them and love them. I've ran with them in ministry. I trust them. It's a Holy Spirit thing, and God has directed me to bring them in for this moment, but I never put anyone on a stage just because they have a name or because they've got a following. It's all out of relationship. So, important leadership lesson, work the ground that God gave you. Pastor the church that God gave you, first and foremost. And second, build strong relationships. So you're not just traveling, not just going, not just speaking, or not just having people do that for you. The only reason why he came is because of relationship. Do you have relationships that strong that where they can build into your ministry, your organization, your church, and vice versa, you can build into theirs? I would love to know what you think. Drop a like, drop a comment. Tell me what you think about this principle. And share this, because somebody needs to hear what was just talked about today. Be sure to subscribe for more great leadership content. See you soon.